Not literally. She just pantomimed punching the camera. So she's got the camera going, and so off we go. Hey, Matt, good to see you.
Hey, everybody.
I'm glad you made it home. You missed my apology earlier. Of course, I texted you also, but yeah. When the decision needed to be made, I really thought it's like one of the Rutherford boys said, it's like the storm went downhill all of a sudden. It just picked up speed. But of course, now it's over. So anyway. Well, speaking of uncertainty, that's kind of where we're going to start today, because we're all living in this time of uncertainty. I'm not even sure if any school district around here knows for certain whether they're meeting in person or online or both, or there's all of that. There are jobs that are uncertain at this time. There are, no one knows what the fall is going to look like. No one knows what's going to happen in the elections. No one knows what's going to happen with the economy. I mean, have I missed very many? I mean, when we were all together, I was going to ask, what else is there? What else am I missing that we are uncertain about? But the reality is it just feels like you can't make plans too far in advance right now. It feels like everyone is living kind of week to week, just like we are. It feels right now is kind of living week to week in terms of where we meet and what time, and we're just kind of trying to move along with things, and it really takes a lot out of a person. Even by the end of the day, even for family, if there's just one more demand on me, even for family, it's just kind of like, ugh, there's just this inner ugh that rises out of me, and I think we all understand that. Now, I'm not trying to bum everybody out. In fact, I trust that this Jesus I Know story will lift us up and give us a boost and give us something to remember next time you feel that ugh sensation. But I was thinking about, that's kind of where I started, but I got to thinking about that. I was thinking about that completely relatable, everyone is feeling it at some level, some emotion of helplessness or fear or worry or all the uncertainty of the unknown. And it brought me to a place of great gratitude for Jesus. Because think about it. He was not living with an unknown future like we are. He knew exactly what was coming. He knew exactly what was going to happen. He knew he would be betrayed by his friends. He knew that he would spend a night in the Garden of Gethsemane wrestling with God over this plan. He knew that he would be nailed to a cross. He knew that he would die. He knew that he would die. And yet, you never see him conserve energy. When you read these stories, you never see him hesitate. You never see him pull back. You never see him do anything other than charge ahead. You never see him engage in self-pity, and he's always advancing, he's always giving, he's always serving, and on top of that, he's serving us. He's serving frail, weak, sin-riddled people who would nail him to the cross. He's serving and pursuing us, fearful, faithless, faith up and down, difficult to trust our Father, us. That's amazing. He's pursuing us on our ugh days. John Piper translated one of the verses we looked at last week this way. We have seen his glory, glory as of the one and only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth, and from his fullness we proud, angry, critical, lustful, greedy, worldly, lazy, fearful, unrelational people, we have all received grace upon grace. And I told you last week that what those words mean in Greek is grace upon grace upon grace upon grace upon grace upon grace. That's how this works. Every story we've gone over in these messages has been him loving us, pursuing us, putting himself out for us, sacrificing for us, serving us, giving to us. Every story, including today's. And today's is very long. It is rich and detailed, and we will not be able to go through the whole thing in one go. Probably we'll come back to it later. In the next few weeks, we'll just kind of hit it from a different angle, basically. But today, I'm going to read the whole thing, or most of the whole thing, but we're going to focus on the very, very beginning for the most part. So it's in John chapter 4. It's the story of the woman at the well. That again, if you grew up in church, you know this story, but the Word of God is powerful. And so we read it directly from His Word. Now Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard that He was gaining and baptizing more disciples than John, although in fact it was not Jesus who baptized, but His disciples. So He left Judea and went back once more to Galilee. Now He had to go through Samaria, so He came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Would you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into the town to buy food. He sent them, by the way, to town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" For Jews do not associate with Samaritans. Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked Him, and He would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his livestock?" And Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water that I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." And the woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water, so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water." And he told her, "Go, call your husband and come back." "I have no husband," she replied. Jesus said to her, "You are right when you say you have no husband. Fact is, you've had 5 husbands, and the man you now have isn't your husband. What you have said is quite true." "Sir," the woman said, "I can see you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem." "Woman," Jesus replied, "believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming, and has now come, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is spirit, and His worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth." And the woman said, "I know that Messiah, called Christ, is coming. When He comes, He will explain everything to us." And then Jesus declared, "I, the one speaking to you, I am He." So stop there for a minute, and let's go back, as I said, to the very, very beginning. It says that Jesus learned that the Pharisees had learned that He was gaining and baptizing more disciples than John, although in fact, it was not Jesus who baptized, but His disciples. So here's the thing. He didn't leave. He didn't, go from any fear or pressure or anything like that from the Pharisees. The reason He left is the same reason that He had to go through Samaria. It explains just a little bit there, and again, you probably know this, but so the quickest way to go from where He was to where He was going was straight through Samaria. But a normal Jew would have gone the long way around. If you can imagine point A and point B on a map, that's from where he was to where he's going. That's point A to point B, but Samaria is in the middle. And so most Jewish people would just kind of do like that in order to avoid Samaria. There were racial biases there, discrimination, if you will, ethnic, religious. I mean, they were just, we talked about it before, Samaritans were dogs. They were absolutely the lowest of the low. But the reason he had to go through Samaria is because he's pursuing a Samaritan woman on one of her Ugg days. The reason why he came to this town called Sychar, and I just listen to everything that Jesus does for this woman. He came to the town of Sychar near the plot of ground. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon. So some of what we know that he did to pursue her is that he puts himself, a Jew, in Samaria. And then he puts himself on the well, not by the well. The translation is just a little sketchy there, but basically he's putting himself in a place where you can't miss him. If you are coming for a drink, you're going to have to ask him to move. He is putting himself on the well. He's very conspicuous. And he sent his disciples, all of them, away. All 12 of them go away. It didn't take 12 of them to bring back food, but they all were sent away by him so that he would be alone when she arrived. He knew she would be there. He knows everything. And so he put himself in the place where he would meet this woman. And then he asks her for a drink. Now, I am not stretching this too far. I am telling you this is the absolute best way to describe this moment. This is a white man asking to drink from a black woman's glass at a diner in the 1960s South. This is, I can't think of the right word. This is dangerous. This is controversial. This is, like tabloid material. This is Jesus going after this woman's heart, her life, with massive, massive grace. And he knew it. And he knew who she was. And he knew that she had gone after man after man after man after man. He's going after this woman's life at massive risk. And he knew it. So again, just go back to that verse that we talked about last week and the way that John Piper, I gave you that quote earlier. Just think about it this way. We have seen his glory. Glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. And from his fullness, this hiding, ashamed, deceived, unbelieving, spiritually blind, serial adulteress received grace upon grace upon grace upon grace upon grace. No one wanted to be identified with her. No one wanted to know her. It's actually a really interesting thing that John does, because in chapter 3, Nicodemus, the guy that everyone would want to be seen with, comes at night to see Jesus. So the one that everyone wants to be seen with is hidden. And the one that no one wants to be seen with is out there in the open, and so is Jesus. And this is one of those stories where, much as we would like to identify and see ourselves in the heroes of the Bible stories, we just can't do it. Because there's only Jesus and this woman. And I'm not ready to identify with Jesus quite yet. There is a way to do that we'll get to next week. But really, the only one we can identify in this story is this woman. We are this woman. We are who we least want to identify with. We are who we grumble against. We are who we shake our heads about. We are who we question. Not because we've necessarily done the same things or committed the same sins as that person over there, but because apart from Jesus graciously putting himself in a place to confront us in our weakness, we too would be lost. He planted himself at our empty well and offers himself as a better drink. That is the gospel. Jesus put himself where we are in order to pursue us. He put himself in our place to win us. And that in itself is stunning and beautiful and praiseworthy, and 'tis so sweet to trust in Jesus. But there are 4 words in this story that, honestly, I mean, preachers say this all the time, but I'm telling you the truth, this is probably my favorite story of, the Jesus I know. It's my favorite Jesus story, and it's because of the inclusion of 4 words. It says, Jesus, tired as he was from the journey. I just love the picture of Jesus having walked all this way, having done all of these things, having broken all of these taboos, having done all of this, and he's tired, and yet he sits right there at the well waiting for this woman to show up. I love the image of a tired Jesus waiting for my weakness, because that's it. He was tired in a way that none of us ever are or ever will be, yet continued to offer himself. At his weakest, knowing what was to come, not wondering as we do, knowing, he gave himself. And it just continues. That whole pattern continues. I just mentioned a few minutes ago Gethsemane. Think of him in Gethsemane. Think of Jesus weak enough to where he is crying. Think of Jesus weak enough to where he is praying, asking God, please, if there's any other way to do this, please, there's got to be something. And then, no, there isn't. And so he gives himself yet again, tired as he was, he gives himself yet again to my weakness. And then, of course, when he offers this woman living water that springs up eternally and never stops flowing, understand, ultimately, that water that never stops flowing was purchased by blood and by water that emptied from his side when he was struck with a spear on the cross. Jesus, tired as he was, sat down on the well to meet me in my weakness. Keep forgetting which camera to look at. Jesus, tired as he was, sat down on the well to meet us in our weakness. This woman never would have found living water unless Jesus was thirsty. She never would have found living water unless Jesus had been weak. Another preacher that I respect greatly says Jesus died of thirst so that you could have living water. He died in torment so that you could have the cool water of the favor of God. He was laid in the dust of death so that your thirst could be satisfied. Jesus is the only God who will satisfy you when you find him. All other gods and idols will enslave you. Now, again, I said before, him coming to us in our weakness is praiseworthy and awesome and amazing. But him coming to us tired and weak to meet us in our weakness, that's even more so. But there is one more level to this, and you probably already know it. He's not tired anymore. After that cross, he was obviously resurrected. Our Jesus is not weak. He is not tired. He is all powerful. He is holding all things together according to Colossians. He has been he gave himself in living water to the woman. He endured the strain of Gethsemane. He went to the cross, and then he came back to life. And then he ministered for 40 days, or to his disciples and to his followers, and he made many, many appearances, and then he ascended to the Father, and now he sits at the right hand of the Father, making intercession for you and me. He's not tired anymore. But here's the thing. If he would reach out to us in his weakness, to meet me in my weakness, how much more would he meet us now in his strength? That's the power of this thing. If he came after you on his weak day, don't you think he'll come after you now? If he came to you through his weakness, don't you think that your weakness in his hands could do mighty things? That's what we'll probably talk about next time. But this whole idea, this whole picture of Jesus, tired as he was, sitting at the well just to meet one woman. Just to meet one woman who was trying to hide from everyone else. Just to meet one woman who has had 5 husbands, and the guy she's with now, again, no one wants to be seen with her. And Jesus, weak as he was, reaches out to her. Reaches out to us in our weakness. And now, strong as he is, powerful as he is, victorious as he is still reaching out to us on our ugh days. And kind of the image that came to my mind, other than the physical painting of John's words, is this song that has been Deanna's favorite for I don't know how many since it came out. And it's called "The Goodness of God," and it's what we're going to close with Scott singing, and I'll put the words up. But the lyrics that caught me is the bridge where it says, "Your goodness is running after me." Psalm 23 says that surely goodness and mercy will follow us all the days of our lives, and we will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. There was one day that I was reading that to a hospice patient, actually, and I thought to myself, follow us. That's chasing us. His goodness and his mercy chase us all the days of our life. All the good days that we think are good, all the strong days that we think are strong, all the weak days that we know are weak, all the weak days that we don't know are weak. Every ugh day, every time that we look at the future and we can't quite figure out what's going to happen next, and we don't know what the fall is, and we don't know what school is, and we don't know what the economics are, and we don't know what tomorrow is right now, he's chasing us with goodness and with mercy. His goodness is running after us. So I ask that you would pray with me, and I ask that you would at least listen to Scott as he sings, and sing along if you would like. I'll put the words up. But God, thank you that tired as you were, you reached out to this woman. And weak as you were, you reached out to us. And strong as you are, you reach out to us. God, may we live in that. Every time we come to a point of weakness, may we remember your weakness, and may we remember your strength, and may we not waste that moment. The reality of you coming after, running after us is that we must receive that. We must see that. Through your word, through your spirit, through our prayers, through our songs, through this song. May we see that. May we be encouraged by that. May we sense your power and your strength coming into our weakness. Let's sing, Scott.